Great. Well, welcome everyone to session number 7 of this quarter's set of SBA Community Navigator webinars. And this session, as you well know, is on how to secure the financing your business needs. Now, we've talked to you about all the things that you need to have in place, but today our esteemed guest is going to talk to you about what are the soft aspects of getting that loan that you need. So if the first time you need money is the first time you ever say hello to anyone in your bank, not a good look, and we'll tell you all the reasons why as part of this presentation. For those of you who don't know, my name is John Walls. I'm the co-director of the Entrepreneurship Center. I'm here with my colleague, Ty Umo. And you probably know Ken Allen, who's the other co-director of the Entrepreneurial Center. And Samir Murphy is with us, making sure that the technicality things work out properly, and we appreciate her. Tonight, we are honored to have Claire Vukovic, an Assistant Vice President at PNC Bank, as the instructor for tonight's seminar. Claire worked in banking and finance for 36 years. She's been a learning facilitator for PNC Bank for 24 years. Through 2 bank acquisitions. In that role, she prepares bank employees for success in their roles within the bank. She's been heavily involved in volunteer activities during her career, and she loves helping entrepreneurs like you and others find ways toward financial freedom. Her passions include her family, working out, and of course, her time at PNC Bank. She comes to us with 2 certificates from Cornell, one in sales growth and the other in diversity and inclusion. And so we're very lucky to have her. Her passion for what we're doing and the advice that she can give us will really help all the people who are participating get to the next level. Before I turn things over to Claire, let me just mention, as we always do, that the Community Navigator Pilot Program is an SBA initiative meant to help address the damage the pandemic inflicted on small businesses. Now it has evolved into a nationwide program with a high focus on building knowledge capacity and access to capital. This webinar is the last installment of a program of 7 classes covering core business activities, including marketing, financial management, and access to capital. LAU can also offer a range of services and tools beyond what you'll hear this evening. And if you haven't done so, please register with us as a client. It's free, and there are lots of wonderful benefits. For example, you'll be assigned a business counselor for direct one-on-one advice on an ongoing basis. You'll be notified about LAUL events, including ones providing access to banks and other types of lenders and investors. We'll keep you informed about grants and other opportunities that we're involved with. In terms of a list of things that we're currently working on, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we're going to be have a program in person with Westfield, and it's a 1-day live symposium on the secrets of retail success. Hopefully that information is being put in the chat right now, but definitely go and register for that if your business has anything with retail. If you want to know about retail, the owners of Westfield Mall, they know it all and they can share it with you. We also have a program with Pepsi that we're in the process of running where it's a Pepsi Food Service Accelerator. And we have $10,000 grants associated with folks who participate in that. We have an Office Depot program that will be kicking off early next month and it's targeting businesses that are designed to grow and scale. And we have $5,000 grants associated with that. We also are preparing to launch a program with Uber, so you'll see how that goes. And if you heard any news about the gala that we had last week, you'll know one of the big announcements was a $500,000 program with Intuit, the makers of QuickBooks. So there are all types of opportunities that LA Urban League can be a conduit to you for. So if you haven't done so, sign up to be a client right now. And now that I've given you my big commercial, I will turn it over to what you're here for, to hear from Claire. So take it away, Claire.
Wonderful, thank you. And hi, I'm glad to see everyone. Okay, so I can't see you, but that's okay. But I do want to let you at least see the face. I am going to turn my camera off simply because I had some technical difficulties, and it's uncomfortable for me the way I have it set up right now. So I did want to at least say hi and let you see the face behind the voice that you will be hearing, for the next hour or so. So it's nice to meet you all. I wish I could meet you in person, maybe someday. With that, let's go ahead and get started on the topic. We had a nice introduction to it already, and he is absolutely right. That's what we're going to cover. Is we're going to give you some tips and tricks, not tricks. Okay, let's go with just tips. Tips on how you can be very prepared in the event that you ever need to borrow money for your business. And it's very, very likely that would happen at some point in time. It's part of the growth process in a business is we borrow, just like we do from a personal perspective. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, whoever is being the slide master today. All right, very good. So I want to start with the benefits of financial management, because really what we're talking about today is financial management. Quality financial management is going to offer you a ton of benefits. And as a business owner, you want to have that control over the finances of your business. So when we talk about financial management, this includes things like bookkeeping, projections, financial statements, financing, and all of this. What it does, if you have a good handle on it, is it creates that very strong foundation that you can use to really grow your business and also to make those sound business decisions. Financial management is one of the key components to success as a business owner. Just like on our consumer side of things, if we don't feel like we have control over our money, it controls us and things kind of fall apart a little bit. The same thing holds true for a business. We need to have that control over the finances, the flow of the cash in and out in order to really get to where we want to be. It's how you're going to make a profit, and that's what it's all about, right? We're not in business, well, but you might have a nonprofit. For most of us are not in business to not make a profit. Most of us want to make a profit of some kind. And having that knowledge about the financial management aspect of the business side of things is going to help you really decide things like, what can I afford in terms of a store or office? Some of you might be working your business from home. Maybe it's in one of the rooms of your house and you want to graduate to the garage where you can fix it up really nice and feel like you're outside of the house. Or you probably, if you are doing a home-based business, you probably hope to have a storefront or an office location. What's going to get you there is that control of your finances. Also, if you have good control of your finances, you'll be able to purchase that inventory that you need when it's the best time to do so, when those specials come up or there's a deep discount because there was an overproduction of something. You want to have that cash on hand so that you can do just that. Also, good financial management is going to help you keep your employees happy if you have employees. We know in this day and age, trying to retain good, talented employees is hard. And if we struggle financially and folks are concerned, employees are concerned about, am I going to get paid? That's going to cause you to lose, potential really good talent that you want to hang on to. And also, some of you may have equipment associated with the type of business that you're in. You want to be able to purchase, upgrade, evolve that equipment. So financial management, I know I've said that a lot of times already, but it is the way that you're going to be able to make those sound financial decisions. And it's going to give you, this workshop will at least give you a little bit of information, hopefully a lot, about the tools that you should use overall as a business owner to create that growth and to be able to, diversify your product line and reach markets maybe that you have your eye on, but you haven't been able to quite get into yet. Again, financial management is going to help you do all of those things. You could basically say effective financial management gives you the tools that you can use to chart your course into the future. Now, as we think about charting our course into the future and taking our business to that next level, we also have to make sure that we're flexible, that we can adapt to change. That's a real important key element. And I know it maybe doesn't necessarily tie directly to the financial piece of it, but indirectly it does. We can get really stressed out and off track if we're not adaptable, if we can't, kind of flow with the change. That's not the right term, but that's the only thing that came to mind at that moment. But you have to be flexible. You have to be willing to adjust. Sometimes I got to cut back, and there might be more times where, okay, I can be a little more open with my purchases. And you just need to, I always like to encourage people to please always keep not only your finances in check, but keep your mental health in check too, because it can get very, very stressful if we get stuck to, I've got to do it this way. There's only one way. I'm going to do it the same way every day, day in, day out. We know things change, and we have to be able to flow with those changes as well. So keep that in mind as well. Now, if your business growth requires financing, which, like I said at the very beginning, oftentimes it will, of course, financial management provides the information to know how much you can afford for your business, so you don't want to overextend. Also, it can help you or gives you not only that information about how much should I ask for, but also if you're doing it properly, you're going to have all of the documentation that you need in order to apply for a loan. Documentation is important, and it can be very easy, or you can make it very complex. I'm going to give you some tips today that will hopefully make it easy for you. So with that kind of overview there and the benefits of why even be here today, why listen to this information, let's go ahead and go a little bit further, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And what that brings us to is something that we all need to do for ourselves personally, as well as for our business that we are running, and that is budget. We tend to think of budgeting in January when we start a new year, and then by March, it's over. On the consumer side of things, that's kind of the trend, and it can be on the business side as well. Just like we have or should have a budget for ourselves on the consumer side, you also need to have a solid budget for your business. If you don't have a budget, you're really just kind of winging it, and sometimes that's going to be okay, but other times it's going to take you down a path that you didn't intend to go down. So creating a budget is the first thing that you want to do when you're thinking about financial management. A budget, it's very simple. I know all of you probably already know what a budget is, but just for fun, let's go ahead and spell it out anyway. A budget is a list of all of your monthly or yearly, you can do it either way, expenses that are organized by category. Now, a budget is a tool that helps you do a lot of great things. Track all of your business expenses, and you do need to track those expenses. Plan for the future. Cut back when you need to cut back. We have to, again, have that flexibility and be able to say, all right, I knew this would come or could come. No problem. I've got control. We're going to cut back a little bit, and here's where we're going to cut back. You'll know because you have everything spelled out for yourself. You know where you can make those cuts. It can also, on the positive side of things, help you plan for expansion, exciting times, growing. And then, of course, a good budget will help you make a profit. And then once you create that budget, you want to use it to compare, what you've budgeted with those actual expenditures that you've had. The budgeting is the planning of it is one thing. It's kind of like a guesstimate, but then we have to take it to that second level and we have to say, okay, exactly what was that that we were looking at? So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and we should have an image of a budget. Very good, very good. I was hoping it was there. When you're not controlling the slides, you're like, please be there, please be there, please be that slide. All right, hopefully all of you can see this now. And this is a good example, and I encourage you to take a close look at the different categories. This is just a general example, but it does really give us a nice example of what most of our business expenses look like and the categories that they're broken down into. As you look at this, rent, utilities, phone, insurance, inventory, income taxes, owner's draw, travel, that's a fun one, legal and accounting. You want to look at this example list, and based on the business that you run today, is there another category? There might be. When I look at this, it's a very high level, budget example, and it's good. But then the one thing that I honed in on, and I don't know if this has an impact on any of your businesses or not, but the postage. They have postage there. I would break that out even further. If you use multiple sources of postage, FedEx, UPS, USPS, I would break those out. That way, down the road, you can see, hey, I'm paying too much over here. Maybe I should shift, more of my shipping to this service as opposed to that one. That's just something that jumped out to me, but I encourage you all, and I know you all probably already have a budget, but in the event you don't, or you want to maybe update it, you haven't looked at it in a while, you can get a template of a budget. You can get a template of about 10,000 of them if you Google it. So I encourage you all to take some time to do that and look at this list and see, oh, you know what? Maybe I did not include those permits or those licenses, or gosh, the dues for the chamber, whatever.
Hey, Claire.
Just use it as yeah.
I don't think you can probably see the chat, so I'm just gonna every once in a while break in with a question from the chat, if that's okay.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
So one question Nola Lawrence has asked, what is owner's draw on the template that you have there?
Oh, really good question. Yes. So owner's draw is your salary as a business owner. We don't call it, or the business world doesn't call it a salary. When you take money from your own business, they call it an owner's draw. So we're going to talk a little bit about it a little bit further on, but it's when you pay yourself. It's the money you take out of the business for yourself. Very good question. All right. Yeah, and just jump in. I don't mind at all. You just stop me whenever you want to, and ask questions while they come up. Because if you wait, if you're anything like me, you get to the end and you're like, well, I know I had a question. I have no idea what it was, but
we'll do.
Throw it out there. Thank you, Nola. All right. Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and let's move to the next slide. So that's a budget. Another item that you always want to keep in mind and have working alongside that budget is bookkeeping. And that's kind of an older term. When I looked at, when I was getting ready for the class and I was looking at the material, I'm like, gosh, bookkeeping, I haven't heard about that in a long time. I bet we're going to come up with a new term for that soon. But what bookkeeping is it's defined as the organized process for tracking all of our income and expense transactions. That's it. Bookkeeping is a critical component of financial management, which leads to better business decisions regarding things like financing, taxes, that owner's draw that Nola asked about, and also retirement. So the bookkeeping can really help us. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 10 basic bookkeeping steps. And I bet as we go through them, you'll be like, oh, I do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. I might have done that. And I encourage you to just, take some notes and pick up on things that maybe are gaps in what you're doing today. Because I bet each and every one of you are very successful at being a business owner. And many times what we need are just some little tweaks to help us get to that next level. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide and take a look, begin to take a look at these 10 basic bookkeeping steps. So first and foremost, obtain business accounting software. If you don't already use some type of software, we encourage you to do that. Now, not just any software, do your homework, do some research. You want to make sure that it will produce what you're looking for. Things like projections, things like a P&L, any quality accounting software will provide at least those two pieces, those two elements, along with a lot of other things. You get what you pay for is what I say about business accounting software. So do your homework. If something seems really, wow, this is not expensive, I'm going to do this. And then you get it home, you get it loaded, and you find out it really doesn't do what you need it to do for your business. So be patient, do your research, and make sure you get some good accounting software. The second one is you want to make sure you have a separate checking account for the business. Oftentimes, we see this a lot, sole proprietors will run everything right through their consumer account because they're a sole proprietor. And, depending on how they have their account titled, you're able to run everything right through that consumer account. But that's not good for business. You want to keep it separate. You want to be able to measure that profitability or measure that loss and be able to identify what's happening. And if it's all kind of mushed together in one account, business expenses going out of the same account as your rent or your mortgage, it gets messy. So we encourage you to, if you don't already, to establish a separate account for the business.
And Claire,
Now,
when one of your bankers sees that one account that has everything all jumbled together, what's their reaction?
Their reaction is, tell me about your business. Yeah, and then we try to, find out a little bit about how they're running the business, what kind of activity they're having, and depending on how they have that business set up, we will highly recommend that they but open a business checking account. And I know a lot of people don't want to do it because there's an expense, right? There's an expense involved. And there are, at most financial institutions, there are ways to get a very low cost or even a no cost business checking account when you're starting out, as a sole proprietor and not using a lot of additional tools or that, things, add-ons, I guess you could say, to the account. So yeah, if a banker sees that and they're doing their job, they should ask you some questions about it and just, to inquire to find out, what's going on. Because they might find out that, maybe it's someone who's doing a pet sitting business and it's just a side job and it really wouldn't maybe justify opening a business account, but we still want to ask. And a good banker is always going to ask you some questions. Did that answer your question?
It did, and I assumed that it'd be if it's a lender who you're talking to, if they have to do more work to make it a loan, it probably will take longer for you to actually get a loan than if the work is all done. It comes to the financials come in a nice, neat bow in the way they expect to see them. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. We want a nice package, which we're going to share with you what that package looks like. Yep. And we are looking for that clarity between personal side and the business side. Good. All right. Moving on, that third, if you look at the third one, reconcile your checking account. That brings back to me, that's another old term, reconcile your checking account. Y'all, back in the day, we had to do that. We didn't have, software. We didn't have phones. We didn't have ways to reconcile our accounts like we do today. But from a business perspective, I know we might just, check things out on our phone or our computer on the consumer side of things. But when it comes to our business stuff, we really do want to reconcile it each month using, of course, that business accounting software that you invested in. If you don't have that business accounting software, we do, encourage you to go old school and sit there and reconcile. Make sure that it balances out. It's not something, I think most people do this, with some type of software or their computer or just looking at what you have in your account. But there's a lot of value in line item by line item kind of reconciling. When you reconcile, that's where you find discrepancies. If you just kind of eyeball, okay, that looks good, I've got this much in there, that means I can take this much, to pay myself this month, I'm good, you may miss something. And I don't want anyone to pay any extra fees ever. And you might see, that when you reconcile, you might identify that there are things you're paying for that maybe you didn't intend to. Maybe there's an error in something that cleared the account. So even though it's kind of an old school term, reconciling the account, very, very important. You want to keep on top of it. Next, you want to track your sales. And I know that's like, of course I want to track my sales. Yeah, that's what it's all about. But not just track it, but we want to encourage you to create an airtight system for tracking your sales using tools such as, if you still use register tape. I'm not sure what businesses are represented on the call today. You might use invoices, a sales book. You have to have some type of tracking system for the sales you make. It might even be an Excel document. At least you're tracking it. You want to do that, and you want to do it religiously. Don't ever get lax in tracking your sales, because that's going to be a very important part of that package that you take when you want, to apply for any type of business loan. So track those sales. You might say, oh, well, that's Mr. Smith, he's here every month. Not a big deal. I know he pays me $100 a month. I'm not going to track that. I just know that's what he does. You might know it today, but 3 months down the road, you might forget, or maybe Mr. Smith didn't pay us 1 month and you might miss it. So track those sales, like I said, religiously. It's a lot of work on the front end, forming those habits, but it will make your life so much easier down the road if you are just really stringent about tracking things like your sales. All right, and then number 5 is a very important one as well, and I think this one gets overlooked by some folks now and then, and that's deposit all your sales. So what tends to happen, or can happen, with small business, sole proprietors is, you're ready to go to the bank. A couple people paid you in cash, and you're like, well, I'm gonna take 200 of this anyway. So let me just take this, and then I'll just deposit, the 2,000, and I'll just keep the 200. No big deal. It will throw off your accounting. You want to deposit every last penny that you get in sales. Was there a question? Okay. You want to deposit every last penny that you get in sales. You want to be able to do what? Reconcile the account. You want to be able to account for all of your income, all of the income, revenue, whatever you want to call it, that your business is generating. Now, a lot of folks still take checks. It's becoming less and less common, of course, but if you happen to have a business that still accepts checks, no problem with that at all. But I do encourage you to think about when you accept those checks, what's happening. You're taking that piece of paper. You're going to have to take time away from your business. You're going to have to, wander on down to the bank and make that deposit. It could be a couple days before you're able to do that, which means you could be losing, valuable time if you're earning interest on any of your accounts. But also think about the time away from work. Your time is very valuable. Anytime you have to leave the business, you run the risk of losing some revenue because you're not there. And again, I don't know what type of businesses you have. I'm just speaking very hypothetically, but you might, if you are a check acceptor, consider looking at a remote deposit capture option. And most financial institutions that offer business accounts are going to also offer that remote deposit capture. That way, boom, immediately you get a check, you scan it through, and then it's going to get processed, and that sale is going to go, right into that business checking account. And you don't have to worry about running to the bank or taking time out of your very busy schedules to do that. So that's just a recommendation that we make and the FDIC makes. That's who produces what you're looking at today. This is a program that was put together by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation for us. So keep that in mind. And yeah, that's it. I think that's all I want to say about that. Let's look at the next slide. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, next is write business checks for all business expenses, or you can do the auto debits, that's okay too. But don't use a petty cash system until you're very experienced at bookkeeping. So the point of that, or the reason that we say, hey, write a check, or I say do, the ACH auto debit or something like that, because tracking, you want that tracking of the cash in and you want that tracking of the cash out, not necessarily cash, but money flowing in and money flowing out. A petty cash system is where I'm going to put a little bit of money aside. That way, if we need to go buy something really quick, I can just pull it out of this drawer and have you go buy it, or I can go buy it. And what it can cause, if we don't have a solid plan in place or a solid process in place, is it can start to cause us to not track all of that cash flowing in, and also, cash flowing out for some of those reasons that we would be using a petty cash system. I don't know how popular that is anymore, but I talk about back in the day a lot because I've been around for a while. So back in the day, petty cash was a big thing. All right, number 7, obtain a separate business credit card. Now, chances are everyone on this call who has a business probably has a business credit card. It's one of the first things you get when you get a business, and they hand them out pretty easily. And you do want to have one. You want to keep, just like we want to keep all of our accounts separate from the personal side of our lives. Same thing with the credit cards. Don't run any of the business expenses through your personal credit card. And you might say, but Claire, I get rewards for that. And I know you do. You probably do have credit cards that get great rewards, but there's also business cards that give you rewards as well. And they might be rewards that are more geared toward supporting your business. So if you do have a habit of, I'm just going to run it through my personal credit card so I can get those extra points, I encourage you to at least investigate and see if your bank has a business credit card that you can use. And you should keep everything exclusive. Anything for my business, it is just for my business. Anything for me personally, that's all for me. But I'm not going to mix the two. We want to keep them as separate as possible. And
So
right
Claire,
now, oh, go for it.
Lakai says, I need help obtaining a business credit card. Any thoughts there?
Mhm. Sure. And so if you have a bank that you already bank with, go in, and I can't imagine that there's a bank out there that doesn't offer some type of business credit card. So you would just want to go in, if you have a local bank that you can go into, and talk to the banker so that they can hopefully ask you a few questions to find out how you're going to use that card, so they can identify which card would be best for you individually. Now, if you don't happen to have the ability to go to a local branch, you can look for them online. But just like everything else, you got to be very cautious. Go with just the big names, so that you don't, get into a card that has some things that maybe you didn't know about. Always do your homework. But as soon as you have that business established, there are many credit card companies that want to help you get started. And that's, I would always start with wherever I bank now, because wherever you bank now, you're there because they've taken good care of you, right? And you want to give them that opportunity to not only take good care of you, but to take good care of your business as well. And as we go through and we look at some of the more detail about lending and what they're looking for, that might give you some insights as well. But generally speaking, the business credit cards, usually one of the easiest ones to get. I won't say easy to get, but it's usually one of the first types of lending that will be associated with your business. And you can even look at Amazon and other organizations like that. I know they have business stuff. So I'm going to call it business stuff. I haven't investigated their cards, and I'm not promoting them in any way, shape, or form. I just know I get a lot of advertisements, and Amazon's a pretty big company, pretty well-known company. I hope that helps a little. And as we go through and add more content around what the banks are looking for, I think that'll help you as well.
Thanks.
Anything else or any follow-ups?
All
Okay.
good.
Okay, very good. All right, and then we get to pay business expenses first. So most businesses start out as a sole proprietorship, and in a sole proprietorship, you are the owner. And like I said before, when I think it was Nola who asked the question, we don't get a salary as business owners. The proper term and what we should be doing is taking an owner's draw. An owner's draw. Now, a common question is, how much draw should I take as the owner? How do I know, what to draw? And there is a rule of thumb that we kind of follow. And that rule of thumb says sales pays for business expenses first. So what we, the income we're getting from the production of our business, we got to pay our expenses first, and then we're second. So we're going to pay all the business expenses first, and then the personal expenses second. So it really is what's left, and it depends on what the sales were for that first that month, or however often you're looking at taking that owner's draw. We're going to look at a few more examples here in a couple of slides that add a little more visual to that concept. But basically, you're always going to pay those business expenses first, because you got to keep the business running, because it's what's keeping you running, right? And then, depending on what's left over, then you can do your draw off of that. Which brings us to the next item that we see there, which is to run a profit and loss. Run a profit and loss statement. So a checking account balance is not a good indication of how much profit the business has made or what amount is available for that owner's draw. But I'm telling you, a lot of times we just look at that balance and go, oh, we're good, I'm going to take this. But you don't want to do that. You want to base your decision off of the profit and loss, the P&L statement. That P&L statement can provide a better picture of that financial health of your business. And we're going to look at an example of what that looks like here in just a moment. Now, the last item, this is the last item here, is to pay yourself with your owner's draw. So owners should pay themselves by writing a check or doing an electronic transfer from the business account to the personal account. If you're a sole proprietor, you want to make sure, like I've said before, keep it separate, keep it clean. All right, I'm paying myself. When I pay myself, if I'm doing it electronically, label it. This is the draw or the owner's draw, so that down the road, if someone's looking over your bookkeeping, your books, your P&L, they can see clearly, okay, this is when Nola has paid herself. And I'm using your name just because it's the only one I remember so far. I hope you don't mind. But we want to keep it clean. So you want to label it. And then you can go back and see, all right, I paid myself out, this much this year. Even though as a sole proprietor, it's all one. You are the business, but you want to keep it separate. You want to prepare yourself for that next step when you're ready to maybe change from sole proprietor to a corporation or a limited liability corporation or whatever else you want to grow into. And you probably will want to grow into, something beyond sole proprietor, simply for the protection that some of the others do provide. That's not this class, that's another class. I don't know if y'all have done that already or not. We could talk about that someday. All right, let's go ahead and move on forward and talk about cash flow. So at a bank, we talk about cash flow all the time. What's the business's cash flow? And cash flow can be defined two ways. It's very, very simple. It's the balance of cash received minus the amount of cash paid out over a period of time. Simple, what goes in, what comes out. Or you can define it as moving cash in or cash out of a business. That is the basics of cash flow. It's what's going in and what's coming out. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next slide here. Apologies for the barking in the back. Hold on one moment here. The joys of working at home. All right.
Amen.
So moving forward, there's something called cash flow projection. And that might not be, that's not something that you hear every day, but it is a very important concept. So when we look at cash flow projection, and go ahead and hit the slide one more time there. A cash flow projection is a financial statement that shows how cash is expected to flow in and out of a business over time, or not over just any time, but over a specific period of time. So a cash flow projection is we're kind of capturing, okay, over this month, I'm going to project what's going to flow in and what's going to flow out. Now, a cash flow projection is used to see if projected cash receipts, what came in, what flowed in, is sufficient enough to cover the projected cash out disbursements, that money that flowed out of our business. A business can be profitable and still run out of cash, believe it or not. So as an investment banker once said, cash flow projections provide the visibility needed to avoid liquidity problems. And that's why on this slide you see someone with binoculars, because it paints that picture visually. All right, this is what came in, this is what I'm projecting is going to come in, this is what I'm going to project is going to go out. And if we project, meaning think ahead, plan ahead, anticipate, we're going to be more likely to, again, have that control over the flow of the cash in and out. So projections are a good tool for you to use so that you're in the know. It's not a, gosh, I wonder I wonder what we're going to do this month. It's, let me sit down, let me look at, all right, this is a good month. I know there's going to be that street fair that might bring some business in. I know this is maybe the opposite, our downtime. I know I'm going to have to project, a little lower because it's our off season. You want to sit and really think about those things. And to me, that's one of the joys of being a business owner, is that you get to really think and anticipate and really get involved in what's going on in your community, because what's going on in your community is very likely having a direct impact on your business. So, you'll be in the know of what's going on. And I think to me, that's kind of fun. I don't own a business. I don't know about, yeah, your business would be online. I kind of see the chats come up real quick. So do you mind, what was that full question that Nola just put in there? Or statement?
It says, so there's a difference between cash versus sales, specifically when the sales are done on some sort of debit or credit card, correct? My business will be online and the payments will be received via an online process. I'm asking this for a reason. No cash.
Yes, she is absolutely right. And we're going to cover that. We're going to cover the accrual accounting, which is what she's referring to there, where you don't necessarily get that cash right away. You're accounting for that sale, but we haven't received that cash yet. So we are going to talk about that. And when we get there, if you still have questions, just throw it back out there in the chat. And
Yeah,
was there another one?
So Sonia asks, if my cafe isn't operating yet, how do I create cash flow since it's a startup? I'm using 100 meals at $15 average ticket sales.
Okay. And actually, we're getting ready to look at that. Where does the money come from? Yep. So good. Just hold tight on that. And we are going to look at that as well.
Yeah. And the one thing I say to Sonia as well is cash flows isn't necessarily always positive. Sometimes it's negative. So if you're spending money before your shop opens up, your projection, at least the beginning, is going to be negative, and then it'll go positive as you generate more cash.
Which is very common. Got to start somewhere. And we're going to look at those places you can start. Good. Great questions. Great group. Let's see. I think that's it. Let's go ahead and go to the next. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. See. It's up to you. Thank you. So a cash flow projection. Cash flow projection is a great tool for setting sales goals and for planning for expenses to support those sales goals. So when you're projecting, you're not just thinking about dollars and cents, you're also incorporating those sales goals. And as you all know, it really doesn't matter what business we're in. We all have some type of goal that we're working toward. And we have to project what's going to be the cost associated with being able to meet that particular goal. So a related use for a projection is to determine your break-even point during a startup or an expansion phase. If you need to plan for a large expenditure, such as equipment purchase or moving to a new location, a cash flow projection is the perfect tool. Now, similarly, if you have a seasonal business with large inventory purchases that you need to make, a projection can help you have the cash on hand to make that large inventory investment when you need it. And not only when you need it, but when you can get a good price for it, having that cash set aside, because, and I don't know if anyone's in a seasonal business, but on occasion, you'll have an opportunity. Maybe there was an overproduction of, something that you use for your business and you become aware of it. If you've managed your business finances properly, you'll have that ability to take advantage of, that deep discount on that inventory. And the projection kind of filters into that as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at a sample of a cash flow projection, which should be on the next slide. Maybe one more. Let me see. Okay, there you go. Okay, perfect. So this is an example of a cash flow projection. So know that a P&L statement can mask cash shortages if you use accrual accounting, which is what Nola was referring to earlier. A cash flow projection helps you see the cash status of your business now and helps you plan into the future. A cash flow projection, like you see here, is a good way to prepare and plan for your financing needs and is often required as one of the pieces of documentation for a business loan. They might want to see that cash flow projection. So to just add a little more around what is accrual accounting. Accrual accounting is where we recognize business revenue or income, and we also can match it to any expenses when they're generated, not when the money actually changes hands. So this means that companies record revenue when it's earned, not when we actually collect it. So that also means on the expense side that we're, counting it out before maybe it's even been sent out. And that's what we mean by accrual accounting is we're assuming that we're going to get that credit for that sale. We're assuming that that debit's going to come out of our account, but it's still hypothetical, you could say, until it actually happens. So in the projections, if we use accrual accounting, it may not be 100% accurate, but at least it gives you a good picture of what you should be able to anticipate. And then as we look at the image here, what this spreadsheet shows is the first two rows are titled sources of cash. And we want to document all sources of incoming cash, including cash from customer sales, interest earned, loans, loan funds, maybe you got some funding from a loan, your current checking and savings account balances. And then if we look at the second section, the operating uses of cash, for that one, that would contain all of those expenses or expenditures that are associated with the day-to-day buying and selling process. Most of these expenses are going to show up on that P&L statement. And then the third section are your non-operating uses or use of cash, which show expenses that normally show up on your balance sheet. Things like equipment purchase, the principal portion of a loan, let's see, inventory, taxes, the owner's draw would be down there on the non-operating uses of cash. And what you're going to do is you're going to subtract your uses of cash from your total cash available, and you have an ending cash for the month, and on this example it's zero. Well, hopefully ours aren't zero, but on this example we just have zero on there. That would become, whatever we end with, that ending cash down there at the bottom, that becomes our opening cash for the next month, and the cycle continues. Because we know month to month, things can and do change. So this is just a sample. Now again, if you're not familiar with these documents, super easy, just Google cash flow projection template and you can get, a wide variety that are available. But if you do what we talked about at the very beginning and invest in some accounting software, business accounting software, it will do these things for you, the good ones, and most of them will have it.
And Claire, just so you know, we have business counselors that are available to our clients that can walk through these issues for them on a one-on-one basis as well. In fact, at least I think she's still here. Gloria Diome, who's is one of the participants, is one of the counselors who really specializes in this area, can really help folks. So there's Google, but we also have more high touch opportunities for them as well.
That's great. That's great. So this is kind of introducing it to them, and then when they go and talk to one of the counselors, they have a little more insight. That's awesome.
Right. In fact, Gloria would say it's a reinforcement because she's shared this kind of information with folks. And so now I'm sure she's saying to herself, see, I told you, it's not just me telling you these things. This is what you have to do. So, anyway.
Yeah. It's just like when, your parent told you, I'm telling you, do this, and then you don't do it. Someone else comes along and says, you should do that. And then you do it. It's kind of like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We all work together for the good of everyone. So that's what it's all about. Good teamwork. All right, let's go ahead and move on forward to the next slide, which is a continuation of cash flow. So here are some strategies for creating a positive cash flow. And some of them are like, I know that, like increase the number of items sold. Well, duh, of course, we all want to do that. That's what we're in business for. But, what can you do to increase the numbers of items sold? And it starts to get you thinking, all right, do I need to look at updating my marketing strategy? Am I, hitting the right markets? Am I expanding out to all the areas that I can? So it's not just a simple, increase your sales. Well, we know we need to do that, but it gets you thinking about how can I do that? Saying it's one thing, doing it is another. Increase the price of items. No one's surprised about price increases anymore. So if you haven't increased the prices of your items, you can do that. We have to, of course, stick with the market. We can't outprice ourselves. We don't want people to go, I'm not going there, it's too expensive. But make sure that you're making that profit margin that you deserve to make. And people will pay for quality. They will. If you're good to your customers, they'll stick with you forever. I mean, I shouldn't say forever, but they'll stick with you because you're you. And at the end of the day, people do business with people that they want to do business with, that they like doing business with. So if we just, treat our customers right, they'll pay a fair price. So don't be too afraid to increase your prices. You test the market, see what the others who are doing something similar are charging. I personally drive to San Diego to get my nails done. That's an expense. I could get it done at probably 16 places where I live, but I choose to go down there because I like the service I get down there. And that holds true for just about if you're in a service-related business anyway. Reduce expenses. Look for ways. Are there ways that you can cut without having a negative impact on the business? What are some small things we can do? I was talking to someone today here at the bank, and she's trying to find ways to cut costs in her department. And she said, do you know that it's about 30 cents a piece of paper when we print something now? And I thought, well, no, I really don't think about that. But she's like, she's trying to figure out a way to get us to not print because that's an easy way to reduce everything's, we can pretty much do everything without a piece of paper these days. But my point is just look for different things that maybe you didn't think you could do without, but maybe you can from that business perspective. And the same holds true for our personal lives as well. Change the timing of expenses. Sometimes just changing a payment date or something can increase your cash flow. Save money to have sufficient opening cash to get through that startup period. The startup periods are the hardest, and that's what someone was asking about earlier. and we're getting ready to look at where you can, where that startup money is going to come from. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, which is still a continuation of cash flow. So the next one is obtain sources of cash other than sales, such as a line of credit. Now, you typically would not be able to secure a business line of credit until you've been in business for about 2 years, usually, from a financial institution. But if you have been in business for 2 years and you have that, that profit, you're making a profit, you might be able to do that. It is a good idea as soon as you can secure a business line of credit to do so. You don't have to use it, just secure it so that if there is a lull or there's that opportunity to buy something at a deep discount, you'll have that line of credit you can fall back on, which is much less expensive than a credit card. Business credit cards they're expensive. If you carry a balance, they're upwards of 20%. So a business line of credit is going to be much lower interest rate. Reduce or change the timing of your owner's draw. Again, timing is important, and just take a look at things. And as you begin to look closer at the cash flow, the cash in and out of your business, would it make a positive impact if you took your draw 2 days later or a week earlier? Every business is going to be a little different, but look at that. Also, research vendor options. So if you use a vendor to buy inventory, shop around. There's a lot of vendors out there. Make sure you get the best deal. Maybe you're working with someone right now and you really like them, but you've found that you can save, pretty significant amount going to another vendor. Let your current vendor know. Chances are they're going to work with you and they're going to meet, what their competitor is offering you. So you got to stay involved. It's a lot of work, but it'll pay off for you, and you're building those good relationships with vendors as well. And then establish policies to get paid sooner from customers. If any of you have businesses that rely on maybe invoicing and a customer paying you 2 weeks down the road or 3 weeks down the road or only monthly, again, don't be afraid to change it up. Say, based on the current economy and the direction that we're going, we're going to have to adjust the payment strategy, and we're going to have to ask you to pay a little bit sooner. I'll give you a time, to get used to the new payment structure, but you're trying to run a business. So if that is something that you rely on, getting paid from customers, and sometimes it lags, don't be afraid to have that conversation. It's never comfortable, but you're trying to run your business, and that's it. All right, let's go ahead and look at P&Ls now. The next slide.
Hey,
the P&L.
Claire,
Yeah.
before we jump
Yeah.
into the next topic, really quickly, we had a question going back to opening up bank accounts. And
sure.
Ava has said that she has a sole proprietorship. She went to the IRS and got an EIN for it. But as she's trying to open up bank accounts, the banks that she's been going to keep asking for her social security number as opposed to using the EIN. Is there some trick to being able to use the EIN? This could be a trick question for you. But if you know the answer, share. If not, we'll find an answer for her.
Yeah, no, she's it was smart for Ava to go secure that EIN for the business, and banks can absolutely use that EIN for the business profile. They will still need your social security number for your profile as the owner and the person who is managing the account, but they should be able to use that EIN for the sole proprietorship. We do it every day here, so yeah, I don't know why. Maybe check with a couple of things. That's odd. They do still need your social security number 100%, but they'll be plugging that EIN into the profile of your business.
Yeah, so she says that the bank account is under the EIN, but the online banking is under her social security number. And I don't want to distract the conversation, but if something occurs to you quickly, say it. If not, we'll circle back.
Yeah, yeah, because online banking has to be attached to a person. So yeah, it does have to be you personally because it has to be attached to a person. It can't be attached to a non-living thing, like a business. So that's why. That's why.
All right. That's a good answer. Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome.
I love when I learn things.
Me too, and it happens every single day, just when you think you know it all, right? All right, let's see. So we were starting to talk about, yeah, the P&L. So the P&L statement is the best tool for knowing if your business is profitable. A P&L or a profit and loss statement. When you go to the bank, they just say P&L, but a profit and loss statement measures the revenue, the income or sales, we call it revenue, against the expenses over a month, quarter, or year. With it, you know if you've made a profit or not and how much. And I encourage you to do it monthly. It might seem depressing at first because it does take a while to hit that mark where you're breaking even and then moving into profit. But you know what? You'll be able to gradually see the growth and the numbers tell the story. So I do encourage you to do that because you'll be able to identify, I finally made it. We're here. I broke even. Now it's aiming forward from here on out. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, the most important financial management report is that P&L statement. A P&L statement will reflect your business decisions on the basic buying and selling process. So it's an image or it's a result of how you're running that business. A P&L will tell you how well you're managing your business and provide information on how it'll provide you some information on how well you're managing your business. And it'll let you know, what you need to tweak a little bit so that you can grow that business. So like I said before, it might not look pretty at first, but as you keep moving in the right direction, you're not going to get discouraged. You're going to keep moving in the right direction. And eventually that P&L is going to go break even and then, on up. And you're going to be like, woohoo, let's have a party. I'm going to invite Claire. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And the next slide gives you kind of the visual of how we look at it. So the first thing that you see there are the sales. Sales are, like I said before, often referred to as revenue here at the bank. It's a total amount from selling your product or your service that month or quarter or year, however often you want to run that P&L. And then the cost of goods, we're going to obviously subtract those out. And that's the total expenditure for inventory items, which customers buy. Cost of goods sold consists of the cost of purchasing the items, freight, manufacturing costs, modification costs, packaging. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. But we have to include that. Labor, anything like that is going to go into that cost of goods sold. It's not just, packaging something up and shipping it out. There's a lot that goes into that. And when you look at the cost of the goods sold, you're looking at some of those items that I mentioned there. And then after you do that, okay, now I've got my gross profit. That's my sales less my cost of, that's my sales minus my cost of goods sold. So that's good, but the story's not over yet. Now we got to look at overhead, any expenses associated with your ongoing business operation. So things not associated necessarily with the cost of producing your product, but the electricity, all those things that are considered, that not considered, but are expenses that fall under that overhead category, those have to be subtracted out. And then you get that net profit. And that's your net profit. And hopefully it's a net profit or it's a net loss. And again, don't get too discouraged by initial net losses. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. The net profit is what remains to pay for things like expansion, updated equipment, repay a loan, pay income taxes. Yeah, we got to do it. And then also that owner's draw. So those are some of the things that net profit are going to get eaten away by. But we like the owner's draw part of it because that's when you get that money in your pocket, which is why you're in business in the first place, right? So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So all quality business accounting software programs do compile a P&L statement, and it should be very, very simple. It's one of the whole reasons to get that accounting software is to generate that profit and loss statement. So the accuracy of that P&L statement is 100% dependent on you putting the information into it accurately. When you go to a bank to get a loan for the business, even though I don't know if they ask for it for a credit card or not, but having a P&L, profit and loss, really will strengthen that application. In fact, you have to have a P&L to apply for any type of business loan because it shows, that the cash flow. It shows what's coming in, what's going out, what are we looking at the end of the day. Let's take a look at what a P&L looks like. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Good. Here we have Larry's Landscaping and Garden Supply. This is just a nice example of what would be generated. And they're all going to look a little bit different. But if you just take a quick look, and I know it's very small on your screen, he's got his ordinary income up there, which is a total income of, let's see, he's got income from several sources there. He's got his services, his markup, retail sales, and then service. So total income of $65,000. Then he's got his cost of goods that he subtracts out. He gets that gross profit. And then he goes through the expenses. And you can see the big expense is payroll, which is, very common. That is our biggest expense. And as we go on down, you can see mileage reimbursement, rent, repairs, utilities, all these different things. Total expenses, $47,000. And then that net ordinary income is the difference between the two. But then we say, but wait, there's more, right? We have other income. He has some other income. I don't know what it's from, but he does have some other income coming in that we're going to add back in, which gives him that net income at the bottom. So again, what you put in to that profit and loss software, or to the accounting software, is what's going to get generated. So this is what the banks, they want to see this. You got to have a P&L of some kind. And, but it's only as good as what you put in. Don't worry, they'll want more than just this. You can't do a fake one. They'll want some supporting criteria behind it, or documentation behind it as well. But that's what it looks like. And it's nice because I know where the money's coming from, and I know where the money's going because I have control over it. It does not control me. I control it because I know where it's going and where it's coming from. So it's very helpful. Let's go ahead and move on forward to the next slide. And we're going to talk now about that business financing. So we got a little bit of the documentation. We know about projections. We know about profit and loss. We know about cash flow. Now, what about getting a loan? So there may come a day when you need a business loan and you want to be prepared. And that's part of what we are here for today. So the first thing we're going to look at are the core elements of business financing. And I forget who asked the question, but someone asked the question earlier, where do I get that money from? Where does it come from? Well, chances are It's the very first item you see there under basic financing concepts, and that's equity financing. So what does that mean? What's equity financing? Well, that's your money. That's your money. Most of the time with startups, it's us. We're probably working a second job to get our business off the ground, or we're getting money maybe from family or savings that we have, or inheritance. I mean, all kinds of places it can come from, but it's our money. And many small businesses start right there with the equity financing. So when you hear equity financing, that's what it means. And usually that money that we put in to get it started stays in the business usually. So hopefully your business grows from that, but it's kind of like your skin in the game. You're getting it started with your own money. Now, there are other ways, which we see next, which is the debt financing. So that would represent borrowing money that you have to pay back. And how you pay it back is you're going to pay it back with interest. So it's going to have a cost associated with it. With the equity financing, think about it, there's no cost. It was your money, so you're not having to pay anyone interest. But on occasion, you may need, to borrow some money, and that's the debt financing. But we have, when we borrow it, we have to pay interest on it. The next two we're going to look at are working capital. So working capital is used to really acquire funds needed to run the daily operations of the business, such as inventory and overhead expenses. And there's four main components of working capital: inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and cash. And we compare that on this particular slide to what we call fixed asset financing, which is used for purchasing equipment, vehicles, and real estate. So the last three are all loans of some type. You have to determine, okay, where is my business today? Which one of these makes the most sense for me today? Equity is the best place to start. Always the best place to start if you can, because it's not going to cost you anything. And the others are going to help you develop and grow that business. All right, let's go ahead and move forward, and we're going to expand on that a little bit more. We're going to look at some do's and don'ts for small business financing. So when you're considering financing, first and foremost, we already saw it on the equity screen there, but invest your own money. You need to invest your money first before you ask for equity or debt from anyone else. Again, like I said before, it's kind of your skin in the game. It shows your commitment, and it also shows your skills in running a successful business. They see that you're doing all right, and they might want to, join in and, give you some money. The next thing that we want to know is that we have to earn the right to borrow. It's not just something we're all entitled to. We have to earn that right to really be able to borrow money. Borrowing money is a privilege. So we want to make sure that we handle our credit adequately as best we can, which is part of what earns us that right to be able to borrow. And we run our businesses, as adequately as we can to make that profit. Now, to obtain investment money from others, we have to demonstrate, again, our ability to manage debt well and run a profitable business. So earn that right to borrow. And then show profitability. Profits are what lenders and investors want to see. Don't let lax management inhibit, a healthy bottom line. Don't get comfortable. You have to continually evolve yourself, I guess is a way, or motivate. That's the word I was looking for, motivate. You have to continually motivate yourself. When you run a business, it's day in, day out. I applaud you all because I couldn't do it. I just don't think I could, because I like to shut down at 5, or 7 today. But when you're running a business, you can't get lax in any way, shape, or form. because you're it. You are the motivator. You are the bottom line of that business. The next one is understand and retain working capital. So experienced business owners know that working capital is absolutely critical. On the other hand, working capital is sometimes overlooked or misunderstood by some new business owners. So as your business grows, the amount of working capital that's cycling through the business to support the operations, that should grow as well. And successful business owners stay aware of that working capital needed to grow and sustain their business. And how do you do that? Well, you keep up with the profit and loss. You keep up with the projections. You just keep on it. And then the next one is to be lean on fixed assets. So new business owners sometimes think that they need to purchase, the fanciest, the best assets to get that business, going or keep it going. But fixed assets really can consume a lot of our precious working capital that we worked so hard to get in the first place. So whenever possible, you need a new piece of equipment or something along those lines, look for good quality used assets, or it might even be a good idea to lease something. If it's a piece of equipment that tends to break frequently, I might want to lease that as opposed to purchasing it so that, someone else can fix it when it breaks. So you don't have to own. The moral of that story is you don't have to own the best of the best. You want what works, that's going to allow you to produce what you're trying to produce. And then match sources and uses of funds. So what we mean by that is when financing current assets like account receivables and inventory, they should be financed with current liabilities like a line of credit or a credit card. Now, with that said, fixed assets should be financed with long-term loans that match the use life of that asset. So you don't want to, pay for a new piece of equipment with a credit card, which could technically, carry that amount out for, upwards of 10 years. And that does happen sometimes. You want to make sure that what you use to finance matches the life of that asset that you're purchasing or acquiring. And new business owners can make the mistake of buying a fixed asset item with that short-term debt, forcing you to pay, a lot more than you should need to pay for any type of fixed loan. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide, a few more do's and don'ts here. So understand your financial statements. So we went over them, very high level, but now I know you have counselors that will go over these things in great detail or have already gone over these things in great detail with you. So most types of financing require an application process that asks for business financial statements, such as that P&L statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow projections. You want to know what you're giving the lender. Be in the know everything about that business. Even if you have employees or you have someone who handles the finances, you as the owner, stay in the know. You can trust people, that's great. You as the owner, stay in the know. That way you always know what's going on. It's just the best advice I can give you there. Understand your collateral. Most loans require some type of collateral to be pledged as a security for the loan. So in the event a borrower doesn't pay, then we would own that piece of equipment, which, trust me, banks do not want to own your collateral. They would much rather have you pay for it. But it makes a lender more comfortable because at the end of the day, if the borrower doesn't pay us back, we could, repossess that piece of collateral and sell it and maybe take care of that loan. So we like collateral. Anytime something can be collateralized, you're going to get a better rate. You're going to get a better term because it's lower risk to the bank. Also, understand risks and costs for loan types. So each type of loan carries associated risks. For example, while a credit card may be easy to use, credit card financing may be very expensive. Like I mentioned earlier, buying a piece of equipment with it, not a good idea. But hey, if you need it right away, something breaks, you got to keep, you got to keep the business rolling. Having that credit card to carry you through that short term is good to have on hand. But also keep in mind, in many cases, small business loan can be guaranteed by SBAs and there's a lot of other things out there available to you. One thing that's not, we try to inform people of is that grants are not for businesses, generally speaking. There's a common mistake, or I shouldn't say mistake, there's a common belief that government grants are available for businesses. That is a very rare occasion. Grants typically are not available to business owners. Now, that doesn't mean there's nothing available to you. There are, and I know the folks that you're on with today probably have a lot of resources that they can share with you around how you might be able to find some other financing for your business. Do shop around for the best loan. Just, because you've been with a bank for a long time doesn't mean that they have the best loan option for you. I do believe in being loyal. However, I also do believe in a business making a profit. So we do encourage you to always shop around. That's a good best practice. Not only on the business side, but also on the consumer side of things. Let's see. On occasion, people, especially if it's a sole proprietor, you might take out a personal loan to start your business. Again, that's skin in the game if you do that, and it is something that people do sometimes. And then get expert advice, like you see on here. You can get mentoring and advice with SBA, and I think with the organization we're with today, it sounds like you have that available as well. Do not rule out banks, especially ones that you have a good working relationship with. And of course, the FDIC has resources that can help you as well. So we had to put a plug in there for FDIC because they are who produced this presentation. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So here are some steps that you can take to prepare for the loan. So when that time comes, if you need one, you want to have a business plan. And the best way to get a loan is to have a solid plan for using the loan. You can't just say, I need a loan. I need it for my business to buy stuff. No, you have to have a solid plan. You have to have it spelled out. Make sure you have a good, up-to-date business plan. You should always have one, which incorporates a profit plan. A profit plan will show how the loan proceeds will be used to increase sales and profitability. Showing a lender a responsible proposition with a solid repayment plan will help as well. Now, your plan should include any research that you've done to establish your cost and marketing and your sales strategies. Always do your homework. A typical business plan will have the following. It'll have a statement of purpose. What's my purpose? A list of owners of the business. It'll describe the business and how it will be profitable or make a profit. It will have or provide a financial statement like a P&L and a cash flow projection, and provide other documents such as references and proof of insurance. That's another component. So those are some things, and I know I rattled off a lot of things that aren't on the slide there, but really having cash flow projection, and then the profitability projection and the P&L, you're going to be in good shape. And then also know what you can afford. Number 2 there, using the likely loan terms, calculate the amount of funds that you need and that monthly loan payment. can you afford to pay it back? You don't want to, and banks will do their best to never put you in a position where we give you a loan that you can't possibly repay. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad business. So, you know, if you do get turned down, or maybe you get a counter offer for a lower amount, you can rest assured that the underwriter has looked very closely at everything, and based on, you know, what you've provided, they're offering you what's best for you at that time. We will never want to put people in worse financial positions. It may not feel like the bank's doing the right thing for you, but at the end of the day, they are. If you think about it, you don't want someone to give you something that you can't possibly pay back. It just doesn't make any sense. It feels good now because I can take care of that immediate need I have, but then I'm not going to be able to sustain it. So we try to help provide loans that make sense, business sense. Study your financial statements. As I mentioned earlier, a lender will want to see your financial statements. Not only do you need to provide accurate, current, and historical statements, you need to know what your statements say about your business. So be prepared to discuss the details of your statements and explain any issues that might arise or might be obvious. Number 4 says check your credit report. I'm sure y'all already do this, but in case you're not aware, you get a free credit report every year. You want to get one every year. Oh gosh, that scared me. I apologize. You want to get that free credit report every year. You want to study that credit report and make sure that it's accurate. Fix any inaccuracies and be prepared to explain any credit issues. If you're not in the habit of getting that free credit report every year, please do so. Things happen that you don't even know about sometimes, and you hate to find out about it when you ask for a loan. You'd rather know in advance so you can take care of it. Also establish collateral options. Think about, what do I have? What kind of collateral could I put up to support that loan? What am I willing to contribute, I guess you could say, in that case. Let's see, show your equity contribution. We know what equity is now. Lenders usually require an equity contribution for a startup loan or a loan for an expansion project. The required cash contribution can range anywhere from 10% to 30% of the total projected cost. And then lastly, research your financing options. Just like I said before, you should always shop around. Shopping around is just good common sense, or good practice, I guess you could say. You always want to try to get the best deal that you can get. You're valuable, your business is valuable. Take the time to make sure you're getting the value that you deserve for your business. All right, let's go ahead and go to the loan package. Just when you thought it couldn't be more, there is the loan package. Loan packages require a lot of preparation, not going to lie, and documentation. But here's a list that will help you get started. Number 1, you got to have that business plan. Like I already mentioned before, lenders really like to see that you've thought this through. You've got a plan. It also can describe the costs and how you plan to manage, the sales and the strategy that you have for increasing your sales or staying profitable. The business financial statement, again, lenders are going to look for that. We want to see it. We look at really the past 3 years, as well as some current statements to make sure things haven't gone downhill recently. And then we may ask for, oftentimes, a personal financial statement as well. A personal financial statement is going to show your individual personal assets, liabilities, and net worth. So it's about the business, but it's also about that person that runs the business. And then personal and business tax returns. So lenders are definitely going to ask for those as well. And those support, when they take a look at that P&L, they're going to do some comparison. Do the two make sense? Sometimes it looks like we're making a profit on the P&L, and then we look at the tax returns and it's a loss. Well, that makes it hard for us to make you a loan because we can only lend on what the business is telling the government that they're making. So you might be making money, but if you have enough write-offs that you don't end up paying taxes, it's to your detriment because you're not going to be able to get a loan if your business doesn't show profitable on your tax returns. Same on the consumer side. Sometimes people have so many write-offs. It's like, wait, you don't make any money. We can't do a loan. You got to have some income. Okay, moving on. Go ahead and go to the next
Before
slide
you go
there.
on, Claire,
Yeah,
maybe you're
yeah.
about to get to it because it says credit report on your slide, but someone says, what should you do when the credit report is inaccurate? How do you handle that?
Yes, so when your credit report is inaccurate, I don't have a magic answer. It is on you to do the research, to reach out to the company that has reported the discrepancy. And if they will not fix it for you, then you do have to go down a different path of, I don't have the right words at the tip of my tongue, but you have to file a complaint of some sort so that you can get it fixed. Hopefully the company will work with you, but if they won't, you do have to, it is unfortunately all on you to go get it fixed. It's painful. And that's why it's important to check it every single year so that if there is someone, doing something in your credit or using your credit, you can identify it early and get it taken care of. Because it's one of the most stressful things is you have to manage it yourself. So it becomes your second job in trying to get it fixed. Most companies will work with you, but if it's a matter of fraud or customer impersonation, it's gonna be a little more work. I don't have a magic answer for that one, unfortunately. But the credit reporting agencies will help you identify where it's coming from, and then that's where it's going to start. Hopefully, it's a little bit helpful.
Thanks. And just
right.
one comment. You were talking about the difference between tax returns and the P&L and how it can look profitable with the P&L, but when you finally get to the tax returns, it looks like the business is losing money. And this is just a reminder of what other folks have said in other presentations, which is you may think you're doing yourself a favor by having some great creative tax person that does everything that they possibly can to make sure you pay no taxes. They find all kinds of things to minimize your taxes. But if you're trying to get money for your business and you show that, then you put the bank in a position where they can't lend because you're not making money. And so you kind of have to think long term about those types of things.
It's true. It's true. Yep. We get, yep, that's good. Good add there. All right, let's move on. I'm looking at the clock. I know we're getting tighter on time here. So let's go ahead and move on. So source and amount of equity contribution. So we talked a little bit about that already, but business loans usually require the business owner to contribute 10 to 30% of a total project cost in cash or equity. They also include a write-up documentation of the amount and the source of your equity contribution. So again, skin in the game. I've said it too many times, but we want to make sure you have something to lose too, And then yes, credit report is right here. Lenders will order a credit report, but it is important for you to know what they're going to see on that report. So make sure you've addressed any credit issues that are contained in that report. And again, You just have to get it and see what's on there. And I noticed in the chat someone had some advice, and I don't know if, I'm not sure if that was one of the presenters or one of the folks attending today. But be careful. It takes work. There's no magic way to erase things from your credit, so I use a lot of caution. Collateral, lenders usually require collateral. We've already said that. We know we like collateral because it lowers the risk of the loan. And then purchase agreements, appraisals, contracts, and estimates. Include those. Include those in the package, again, to support why you need that amount. And again, what you're purchasing will also support that sales strategy that you have. It's going to show how, okay, I see. If they have this, they'll be able to increase their sales because this piece of equipment produces 10 times faster than the current one, things like that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit more about that credit. Your credit report gives the history, of course, of how you've managed debt over the past 7 years is typically what we're looking at. And a good credit score tells a lender that you have the ability to manage and repay that particular loan. Like I said before, we don't want to give you something that you can't sustain for the period of time of the loan. We've already talked about equity contributions. I'm not going to talk about it again. We also look at what's your ability, repayment ability. And just like when you're getting a consumer loan, we look at the history. What have you done in the past? That's an indicator of what you're likely to do in the future. Same thing holds true from a business perspective. How you've managed the business in the past is an indicator of what we can anticipate how you're going to handle it in the future. It's not, 100%. People definitely make changes, but the only thing that lenders have to go on is the history, and it's that credit report that provides that history. Also, we look at loan to value ratios. Obviously, we have to make sure that the loan to value makes sense. Usually the loan to value that lenders will go will be anywhere between 70 to 90% of the market value of the asset. Right now, the way things are with our economy, it's probably closer to that 70 or 80%. 90% is kind of high for some items right now. And what else do we have? Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. We just can't talk enough about equity. So again, as we look forward to this next slide, what are the financing options for that startup business? Well, there's equity again. And simply put, it's your money. Many businesses are started with savings from having that side job or that day job and then doing the business at night until you have enough to really get it off the ground. There's something actually called sweat equity, and you see it listed there. And what sweat equity means is doing it yourself. Owners of startup businesses are often a jack of all trades. You put in the hours to cover all the different activities of your business rather than hiring others or buying equipment. You are doing it all, and you're going to get tired very quickly, but it is a term, and it's called sweat equity. I do it all myself. I don't have anyone I have to pay. It's all on me. And then business credit cards, which again, we've already talked about, but business owners of startup businesses can often qualify for a credit card. And when used wisely, a credit card can be a great source for starting a small business. And here's some tips for getting that credit card or making sure that you use that credit card wisely. So like I already said, get a separate credit card for the business. Use only one credit card, not multiple credit cards. Try to keep it all on one. It keeps things in better order. Keep your balances as modest as possible. If you can pay it off every month, pay it off every month. If you have to break it out a little bit further, do so, but just make sure you pay it down because those are going to be pretty high rates on those credit cards. Don't use a credit card to prop up an unprofitable business. If it's going down, it's going down. Don't add any more to that sinking ship. So that's just a piece of advice. Don't prop up an unprofitable business with a credit card, with income infusion from a credit card. And then family. Some business owners turn to their family for equity contribution. And some of us have it, and some of us, don't have that as a possibility. But, if you're doing well, others might want to contribute to see, what you're going to be able to accomplish. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. We just have a few key points here, and not yet to key points. So we're still looking at loans. What should you look for in a business loan? So many banks provide business loans, lines of credit, equipment leasing loans, and SBA guaranteed loans. So start by gathering information from the bank with which you currently do your business. Like I said earlier, go to the people that have been good to you so far. Find out what types of business financing they offer. Make an appointment with your bank's lending officer. And if your bank is not active in small business lending, ask your accountant or other business owners in the area for referrals. A lot of banks are associated with the SBA. I encourage you to look at that as one of the qualifiers for the banks that you choose to do your business lending with. And then there's regional lending organizations. So many are nonprofit community development organizations that have revolving loan programs for business development in their region. To locate these organizations or organizations that can refer you there in your area, just really go out and search the internet. Search for Community Development Financing Institution, CDFI. Small Business Administration resources, resource partners such as Small Business Development Centers, SBDC is what they're abbreviated as, SCORE, y'all may have heard of SCORE, SCORE, Women's Business, Women's Business Centers, Veterans Business Outreach Centers, U.S. Export Assistance Centers. Just the list really can go on and on and on. And me rattling them off is probably not a good use of your time. So I know that the organization that put this together for you has those resources, and the counselors that they mentioned, I think probably have some additional resources available to you as well. But as we get close to the end here, just a few key points to keep in mind. Financing is getting the money you need to start, operate, and grow your business. That's the definition of it. Start financial management with a budget. Don't forget what we started at the very beginning. Seems simple, it's critical because you gotta know where the money's going and where the money's coming from. Keep that bookkeeping. If you're not doing bookkeeping, do it. Get that good business accounting software. Doesn't have to be expensive, but make sure it's a quality one that will produce the projections as well as the P&L. And then, yeah, that's it. And then let's go and go to the next slide. I think I lost my slide person. Go one more. There we go. All right. And then in conclusion, these are just some of the things that we talked about. I hope that you found some good nuggets of information that can help you, have work a little bit closer with creating a stronger strategy for your business, secure maybe some financing for your business, effectively manage your business. And like I said at the beginning, you need to have control over it. Don't let it control you, because that will keep you up at night. And it's just little things that you change that will help get you to where you need to be. And with that, I will stop talking. I appreciate your time, your attention. I hope it was valuable to you. And yeah, maybe we'll do this again in the future.
So we have probably just a minute or two left. Can you take a question or two?
Of course.
And so I'll ask the first question. I'm not sure, most of the questions that were in the chat have been answered, but can you just talk a little bit about the human aspects of getting a loan and the importance of relationships and just kind of how that works as part of the process,
Sure.
since you're dealing with human beings and not really machines?
Yes, yes, and that's so important, especially these days. You feel like everything's digital, but it's not. You are always going to do better if you have a strong relationship with anyone. But when we're talking about business and financing, know the people at your bank. When you go in, set an appointment, meet with your banker. Even if you don't have maybe something in mind that you need to do, you can set an appointment just to meet them, to get their insights. Bankers are in the know. They deal with business customers, consumer customers. They deal with everything that you're probably going to need assistance with at some point in time every day. Build that relationship. Relationships do matter. That doesn't mean to say, if you have a good relationship with them, they're going to give you a loan, but it gives you that opportunity to explain to them what's going on with your business, what you see, and when they understand it, we can get that communicated, properly in any of the applications that you may be making, and it can strengthen where you're going. In addition to that, it's good education for you. It's good professional development for you. They know stuff, and they're more than willing. We love to talk to customers. It's hard for us to get customers in sometimes. So they love meeting with business customers. I can attest to that. I don't know if that's what you were looking for or not.
Yeah, no, it's helpful, and I'm just looking at kind of what we laid out for the course, and it's one of the topics is advice on the best times for seeking credit and debt from lenders.
Ooh, that's a really good question. So when's the best time to get it? When you don't need it. You want to apply for, as soon as your business is at that level where you could apply for and likely get approved for a line of credit, a business line of credit, get it when you don't need it. And that's advice not only on the business side, but on the consumer side. I always tell bankers that when I have them in training, they're like, well, the customers don't need any loans. When is the best time to get a loan? When you don't need it, when you're not in a desperate situation. That way you have it. When something comes up, you just tap into it. So the best time to get a loan, and for us, for business purposes, is as soon as you can establish that line of credit. You're probably going to have an annual fee, but that will pay for itself because it'll be there when you need it. It's the lower cost, what's the word, capital, that you can tap into. You've already got it established. It's like, gives you peace of mind. It's good to have when you don't need it. That's when you get one. When you need it, it's so stressful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is that the answer we're expecting?
So I don't see any other questions in the chat. So
Look,
I
Sonia,
will.
that's good. Yeah, same thing.
Exactly.
I just saw that one.
Good point, Sonia. With no more questions in the chat, and Claire, if there's nothing else you want to share, I'll turn it over to my colleague Ty to close out the evening for us.
All right.
Thanks for the for sharing, Clara. I did post in the chat, everyone, for the event tomorrow at Westfield. The link below in the chat basically lets you know where the location is going to be. If you could register, please, and show up. It's going to be a really good event. It starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow and should end at 2 p.m. And if you're not a member of the Urban League, there's also a link in the chat as well that I posted that will let you sign up to become a member. If you could do that as well, or shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat if you have any other questions. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. With that being said, thank you everyone for joining, and we look forward. It's been a great show and kind of learned a lot, but hope you all did. If you have any questions, shoot me an email on my email there, and we'll see you another time. Thank you.
Bye.
And Claire, thank you again so much. We appreciate you pinch hitting on such short notice and doing such a fantastic job under stressful video chatting circumstances. So thank you so very
Yeah.
much. We appreciate you greatly.
We make it work. Always make it work, one way or another.
And we
All right.
appreciate your institution, PNC Bank and the PNC Bank Foundation. You all have been very good to us, and we appreciate you.
That's good. That makes us happy.
Good night,
All right.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.